Good morning. Hey, I'm Steve Weber, broadcasting from On the Road. I'm coming to you today live from Boulder, Colorado. And it's going to be a short show. I got just two stories to tell. I don't know, maybe I'll go 15 minutes or so. But anyway, like I said, two stories I want to tell. Number one is today is the 25th anniversary of my first day being Forrest Gump for the Bubba Gump restaurant in Monterey, California is where it all started. I got a couple of pictures I took earlier in my trip that I'll share with you, showing you that location. And so anyway, it was March 29th, 1996. And the Bubba Gump Shrimp Restaurant had their grand opening, and they hired me to be the Forrest Gump impersonator. So that was the day that it all started. So 25 years ago today. So that's kind of a milestone anniversary date. Alrighty, and so and then the second story I'll tell that second story first is the idea that here, let me throw this up here. The On the Road, yes, this is the On the Road, episode 7, the 25th anniversary of Gump and Redondo to Boulder. That's the second story. The last couple of days, I've taken the trip from Rodando Beach to Boulder, Colorado. I just arrived here last night about 9 p.m. Mountain time, and settled in, got a good night's sleep, and here I am ready to go, and a fun couple of days coming up here in the Boulder area. Alrighty, so story number one is going to be the trip, the Rodando Beach to Boulder, Colorado. And so it was Friday afternoon. I had a great time down in Southern California, Monday through Friday. Victoria Reynolds, gracious host, visited Debbie G, visited Dr. Sharon Stroud and Fleet and Joan of Angels out in the desert, out in the Palm Springs area. And then Victoria and I did a couple shows, 2 live broadcasts on Tuesday and Friday. So right after Friday, it turned out it was about 1 o'clock. I pulled out of Redondo and started heading. My plan was to go to Las Vegas for the night. And that was because I knew I had 3 days, essentially Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to drive from Redondo to Boulder, Colorado. So I figured, okay, I'll get up to Vegas at least. That'll take care of that. And I had a friend I'm staying with in Salt Lake City. So that's the plan as I leave Friday and, just to get to Vegas. So anyway, I get to the state line, and I stop and I go on to hotels.com and I start looking to see about a hotel. And they only had rooms in Vegas for like $250 and more. And I'm thinking, well, that seems kind of crazy. There must be a room for less than that. Just I'm going to stop and spend 12 hours at the most. So anyway, I can't make a reservation. I tried a couple of places and things it wasn't working. Now this is after driving for I was on the road from 1 until probably it's just about dark. And the reason why is that it took a good hour just to get out of the LA area. The traffic was, along the freeways and, blah, blah, blah. Then I get, into, crossing California part, and that went pretty good. But then I ended up getting to Interstate 15, yes, 15, and emerged on. I went kind of anyway, I'm following just Google, and as soon as I got on that interstate, traffic came to a crawl, and for a good hour and a half, for about 30 miles, it just crawled along, and I never figured out why. But anyway, I'm moving along, and so now it's getting later in the day. Sun's starting to go down, and I get to the state line, and I thought I'm going to try to get this room, but I can't book a room. So I'm thinking I'll just drive up and I'll just find a room. So I go and I get into Vegas, and I just felt so crowded, and I thought I'll just go to kind of above Vegas and I'll find a room. It'll be easier that way. Well, I stop at about 5 places along the way, and everybody's booked up. Everything is sold out. Maybe that's why the traffic was so heavy. Maybe Vegas finally felt like it was opened up, and everybody and their brother who's been cooped up for a year said, I'm going to Vegas. And so anyway, the place was packed, and I couldn't. So then I go, well, I'm just going to drive to Mesquite, which this one gentleman at a hotel said, oh, Mesquite's the next town up the road, which is right on the Nevada and Arizona border, Mesquite, Nevada. And so I get to there, sold out. So now I'm like, okay. So I drive across this little tiny stretch of Arizona, and I get into Utah then. And so now I'm still driving. It's like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And I stop at St. George. Everything's sold out in St. George again. So then I realized, well, the thing to do is just find a rest area. They have rest stops along the interstate, and I'll just park the car and sleep in the car. So I do that, and I'm above St. George, probably about 50 miles, not quite the Heber City is where I think I was, pretty high up, cold. I don't know what the elevation was, but it was definitely a chilly night. And so I kept turning on and off the heater, trying to sleep in the car. I didn't really sleep very much. Watched a couple of videos, just to, kind of, keep my mind, busy from trying to be uncomfortable or being uncomfortable, trying to be comfortable in the, in the car. And, anyway, so I turned, long story short, I get through the night, about 5 hours. It's now 6 a.m. Sun's coming up, and I go, I'm just driving to Salt Lake City, and I'm going to visit, stay with my friend, Mitch Sehusen, who invited me to come up. And the plan was, and we had spoken about 10 days earlier, that I would drive up and, meet him. And then we talked about even driving over to Boulder together, because he does a lot of business in the Denver area. So that's the plan. So then I message him and say, hey, I'm on my way, heading your way. And he says, oh my gosh, I forgot. I'm in Utah, or no, I'm in Idaho. And his father passed away last fall, and they were, cleaning out the house. And so he's hours away. But he says, here's how you get into the house. Make yourself comfortable. So I thought, okay, great. So I get there about noon, before 11:30, noon on Saturday. Hadn't slept at all overnight, or just a little tiny bit, uncomfortable. Park the car, go inside, sit down, again, just making myself comfortable, and grateful to Mitch for opening up his house and letting me stay there. So anyway, I was pretty brain dead on Saturday, and just hung out and chilled, and anyway, just couldn't do much of anything. So I remember late in the evening, I go out to the car, and here's the part that kind of gets interesting. That turning the car on and off overnight to put the heater on, and it's the hybrid, so the engine doesn't really want to run, but it sort of does run, and but the heater's working, and I'm warm, and so I can turn it on and I can turn it off. So when I'm driving up from where I slept overnight to Mitch's house, I noticed that like the door wasn't working right. The electronic door, the door locking, opening and closing the button. And so I was like, that's kind of weird. And so anyway, I get to the house, or the Mitch's, I stop the car, shut it down. I go out that evening to get something out of the car, and I couldn't lock the car. I couldn't lock the, it was unlocked, but the electronic locking, I'm like, oh boy, what's going on? I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. Didn't even worry about it. Went to bed. Wake up the next morning, write my blog post, go to AmericanGumption.com. You can see my write-up for Face-to-Face is the title of that. Go to AmericanGumption.com, and Gump Dates, and episode, I think, 43. But anyway, so I finished that. I'm going to meet Scott Stanfield in Park City. So it's like I'm hustling, I'm running around. It's like 8:45. I go out there all packed up. The car's dead, not going to start. And so, I after a long story short, I finally figure out that somehow or another that turning it off had kind of left the car. It didn't want to shut down quite right. So it wasn't shut down properly when I parked the car arriving, and the headlights were on. The headlights are supposed to shut off, but like the whole electronic thing kind of got a little goofy there. So anyway, long story short, I can't meet Scott Stanfield for breakfast, but he comes down from Park City, 35-minute drive, grateful for that. shows up, it's got the jumper cables, we get it started. But I had to go into the manual, figure out, where do you put the jumper cables, because, batteries are in funny places, and, it's a Prius, it's a hybrid. So anyway, get the car started, and everything's fine. So I departed a few hours later than I wanted to. Didn't have an omelet with Scott, but did stand in the driveway with jumper cables. And so anyway, then yesterday turned out to be a beautiful day. I drove across the state of Wyoming, and it was about 500 miles, but just a really nice day. Although the wind was kicking up like crazy wind across Wyoming, and I mean, literally, I did a short little Facebook Live yesterday. I mean, literally, like kind of like knocking me over as I was walking from a rest stop back to the car. So crazy. They said 60-mile-an-hour gust. I don't know if that was what it was, but it was wind was blowing for sure. So anyway, I arrived here last night about 9 o'clock, and that's it. So that's the story. So it was 1,300 miles I drove in those Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I figured it was about 550 the first day, and then 250 on Saturday morning, so not very far to get up to Salt Lake City, short little drive, and then about another 500. So about 1,300 miles total is what my odometer did, but a couple little, side tours as, you do different things. So anyway, that's the Rodando to Boulder. And then funny thing, the last thing is like funny how different places along the way have different protocols for the, like the way you're supposed to, wearing a mask and not wearing a mask. And so Colorado, which is where I am now, like a great sensitivity to, masking up and keeping everybody safe. And Wyoming, not so much. They didn't, not as many people. I guess they didn't care so much. And then no comment on Nevada and Arizona, because Arizona was just a little tiny sliver, like maybe 50 miles of it, a little corner of it. I cut it through. And Nevada, I didn't really stop there, so I didn't really have a feeling for what Vegas was like. But there was a lot of people there, so my guess is that it felt a lot more opened up. And of course, California is what I had done last week. So, alrighty, that's that. Now let's shift gears and let's talk about today being the 25th anniversary of the Bubba Gump Shrimp grand opening. And last week I was, or 2 weeks, let's see, almost 2 weeks ago now, or a week ago Friday, I was in Monterey and I took a couple of pictures. Here's what I'm looking at. So there is the Bubba Gump Shrimp. Boy, that sure looks like the same old sign that was up there. Yeah, it's probably been replaced, I guess, but basically that was it. There's that little flowery area, little shrubs underneath of it, looking good there. And that's Cannery Row off to the right. You can see it in these buildings. And this was all a sardine cannery. Sardine, was caught, and this whole Monterey became, Cannery Row is where all the sardine boats came and unloaded, and they, processed them, and these buildings were all, sardine factories. Now, what happened was they fished out Monterey Bay. There was no more sardines left, and so everything closed down. And then these buildings sat, vacant and abandoned and dilapidated for years and years until it became kind of a tourist place. Probably in the 80s, starting, and by the 90s when I was there, 1996, that was what was going on. All right. So second picture I want to show is this is the actual the building, and this was some kind of a place that they would right on the water, and I guess this was the first place that they took the sardines and unloaded them from the boats and then put them in. But anyway, there's the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. You can see the signs there, and if you look at the lower right, that's the Forrest Gump bench sitting there, and that's the bench that I sat on for years and years and years. Now, actually, it's not the exact same bench. It looks like a replacement version, and actually, Cannery Row and this the built, like, it used to be a vacant lot next door, and then it's now a hotel, and so what you're looking at did get reconfigured and changed around since what it was, but here it is, 25 years later, the new version of that. And then here is the Forrest Gump bench. And then that was the bench that I sat on. And basically tourists would just come walking by and they'd look over and they go, oh my gosh, Forrest Gump's there. And they'd run over and sit down and take a picture. And in the heyday, gosh, I was seeing 1,000 people a day. And gosh, was it ever fun? So I talked about that and different things. So all I really wanted to do today was just acknowledge that today is the 25th anniversary of the grand opening. So and it was the very first Bubba Gump that opened up. And so, like I said, March 29th. And the next day, on March 30th, I came back because they said, come back and you can sit on the bench and talk to people again on the grand opening weekend on Saturday. So grand opening was on a Friday. And it was just, so I walk in and Dave Trombetta, the general manager who I interviewed in January, he says, oh my gosh, your picture was on the front page of the Monterey Herald. And so sure enough, I got a copy of it. And right there above the fold in color is the Bubba Gump shrimp sign. It was actually taken. It was taken with me standing like right underneath this sign, and I don't have a copy of that to share with you this morning, but that's it. So anyway, just wanted to acknowledge that it was 25 years ago today when it all began. And Julian checks in and says, congratulations, thank you. And Bettina is also checking in from her perch up in Seattle. So thank you so much for joining us. So that's really it. I just wanted to share with you the idea that, let's see, I'm going to get back to, I just wanted to, again, share that, in this episode of number 7 of On the Road, I'm in Boulder. I've got a fun day planned. I'll tell you about that tomorrow. But basically, today was just acknowledging the 25th anniversary of the grand opening of Bubba Gump Shrimp in Monterey, which was the first Bubba Gump, and it was my first day on the job. And then, and of course, I told you the story about Rodando to Boulder with the adventures of sleeping in the car, and then the wearing out the battery because I didn't shut the car down properly. The hybrid has some kind. Anyway, it all got started up. It all worked out, and really super grateful that I was in a safe place. I was had a chance to rest and get caught up that Saturday, and then Sunday when I went out there to start it, I couldn't get the car started, but of course we did, and got on the way and ran beautifully across the state of Wyoming, all the way through the winds. And here I am in Boulder for the next several days. So that's it. Have a great day. Signing off. Nothing else to say. Let's just close this show down. Have a great day, everybody.